Anyway.
It looks like people are still jumping on. So welcome, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. This is going to be a really fun. Ryan knows how to make SEO so you'll understand it, which I think is great. And Cammie's bringing questions to the table that many of you who were looking at names on here have probably had those questions and brought them to Cammie. So be good to get started. Should we get started or should we want to wait a few minutes?
Let me see. We still have some more people coming in. If ever you guys feel that, like if you stop hearing things or if your screen goes down or anything, just either you can send me an email. I'm always monitoring the email during this. A lot of times it's just a quick fix. You just email Lori@flowerclick.com. I'm happy to help you. If you have questions or comments or concerns for Ryan or Cammie, you'll just click that little chat box and put it in the chat and we will interrupt and get your question out. If we can't answer it, because you have a lot of content, Ryan, at least from the little bit I glanced at, if we can't answer it, again, you can shoot it in an email to Cammie or myself or even Ryan, and we want to get every question answered, but time just may not permit that.
Yeah, we have a slide at the end with the email addresses, Lori, so that people will be able to know who to email those questions to. So sounds great.
Great.
All right, so everybody should be able to see the screen and, SEO made easy. So this is going to be fun and fast moving is our plan. But with a lot to be said, it can't be real fast, right? So Ellie, you want to
introduce ourselves quickly?
Sure.
Okay, I'm Ellie Lefevre. I'm creative director at FlowerClick. Lori?
And I'm Lori Wilson, and I am director of community for FlowerClick.
Vonda?
I'm Vonda Lefevre. I'm the owner of FlowerClick.
I think she wants
Cammie?
me.
Yes.
Cammie Martin, and I am the director over the web program at FlowerClick.
And Audrey. Oh,
You're
and
muted.
she is muted.
Audrey Christoph, I'm the product manager. I've said that a couple times. Product manager at FlowerClick.
And then we have Ryan as well.
I'm Ryan. Of the show.
I'm a big fan of FlowerClick, so that is my title.
And we're a fan of you. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
So Ellie, you want to go over our outline today, what we're going to accomplish?
Sure. Yeah, we have three main things. First up is a little fact versus fiction with SEO. The second thing is Ryan's takeaways from the Local U Advanced SEO Summit that he recently attended last week, was it?
Yep, last week.
Okay. And then third, we have 3 action items for you guys to do before Mother's Day that are easy and attainable. And so we'll get all that content to you. So first up, fact versus fiction.
Yeah, this one to me is like the myth busters, right? If
Right.
you guys look at, it's like, okay, there's so many things out there and people say this is fact. Well, is it fact? Is it fiction? So we're going to go through those. And Cammie, these are ones that you usually have people call you and ask you about. So I think I'm going to have you take the lead on this.
Yeah, I'll ask the questions and I'll let Ryan answer them.
Yes.
I'll take the easy part.
The specialist is going to give us the answers. That's right.
Yes. And I do know, and that the first one here, do I really need SEO for my business? I know, Ryan, that this is multifaceted and is going to be hard to keep, quick paced. So, but we're going to try to let you cover that one the best you can.
Yeah. So the first thing that came to mind when I saw this question is SEO is ultimately about trying to be seen, trying to be found, trying to draw attention to your business. So if that's a goal for you, then yes, you need, most people are going online to search. About 80% of product purchases start with an online search. And a lot of that online search winds up in organic traffic going to websites. So if that's a goal for you, yeah, the first parallel that came to mind for me was just how much florists usually enjoy taking care of their window or doing their window, overhauling their window. I know for our shop, that was always a big point of pride. Our window had to look really good. It had to be talk-worthy, noteworthy, something that people would notice. We also, when I was growing up, we had a shop a couple blocks down that survived only by being directly across from the funeral home. And they had the same display in their window for basically my entire lifetime. They had a few silk funeral things in the window that, I kid you not, were all literally bleached white by the sun by the time that shop closed. But they did not want to be found. They did not care. So for them, that was their mindset. But we wanted to be noticed. We wanted to stand out. We wanted people to come and experience our shop. And so yes, from whether it's your window, whether it's your online presence, your website, and again, getting people to that website, yes, SEO is very important.
Good. And I know there's a lot of pieces to the puzzle when it comes to, and that's kind of what this slide shows, is there's all different kinds of SEO and ways to enhance it. And, it's different for every shop probably, right? Whenever you're assessing someone's needs and what the plan is for them.
Definitely. And one of the things we hear, and you may probably hear this as well, is, well, I'm the only shop in town, so do I really need SEO? Well, you might be the only shop in town, but I bet you don't have to go too many towns over to find another shop. And if you leave your window getting bleached in the sun and never really looking like you care about your business, right, then people will eventually start driving to the next town to get their flowers. So just because you're the only one in town doesn't mean you don't need to try.
There are things you should be doing to try.
Yeah, absolutely. You still want to make sure that you're looking like you care about your business, and SEO is one way to be doing that.
So I think this next question kind of, my mind automatically went there as you're talking. Do I need to advertise on Google, and is that considered SEO? Yeah.
So the first answer, do I need to advertise? Probably. And that's definitely a case by case, but there's generally more benefit to it than not. But is it considered SEO? No, it's not. When we're talking about advertising, we're talking about those ads that appear at the top of the page. Sometimes they're labeled ads, sometimes they're labeled promoted. Right? Google keeps playing with how those are displayed, but the point is those are pay to play, right? So that's where you're advertising, you're paying to show up there. And then below, once you get into the local pack and the organic listings, those are the editorial endorsements. Right. So that's where it's an actual recommendation based on merit, not just on getting into the auction system for those ad slots. So yeah, if you want to be in that top section, and if you want to push some order gatherers out, especially on mobile where you've got to scroll for a while to get past those 4 ads before you get to anything else, I would recommend that for most shops that they invest a little bit and participate in that. But again, that is a shop by shop decision for sure.
I feel like you said something, it stuck with me too. About a year ago, you did a little webinar for our members. And I think you said, even if you are the only shop in town, if you need to pay a little bit, right? To make those order gatherers need to spend more to be there. Isn't that kind of something you said?
Yeah, definitely. So again, with it being an auction system, order gatherers are going to benefit from a lack of competition. Right. So there, you go back a couple of decades, it was the national ads in the yellow pages, right? It wasn't that much more expensive to just get your ad out nationally. And really, that's what they're doing in this case. But as soon as there's a little bit of local competition, right, those auction prices go up. And there will always be a benefit skewed towards the more relevant local business. So all of a sudden, if it used to cost them $10 to get an order, just if that local competition means that now it's $15 or $20 for that order gatherer to get an order, their business model has changed dramatically.
Good.
Right. And you avoid that headache of person calling you saying, I ordered this from your website and I didn't get it, or I ordered it and it was horrible, or I want to order this thing from your website that I'm looking at right now that's $19.95 for 3 dozen roses.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, no, you're on flowershopping.com. That's not us.
Every florist is nodding their head right now.
Right. And that's such an awkward conversation, because now you have to say, no, Miss Customer, what you clicked on is not what you thought you clicked on, and you really weren't paying attention. And I hate to be the one to break this to you, but
Right.
yeah,
It's true.
yeah, I don't like being the bearer of bad news, but
Exactly. So the next question,
Mhm.
just kind of rapid fire. Like I said, if I sign up for SEO, will I get orders right away and show up in the local map pack?
Yeah, so it's best to think of SEO as a process. So the question here really is, where are you in that process? So if you have an 80-year-old business that's been in town forever, you've never really done anything online, but you probably have a listing because you exist, right? Then you're at least starting from something. You've got that brand reputation already. So it might be a little more of a ramp up before you start seeing the needle move. It will, but you might not see the immediacy of that. If you're opening a new business and you're creating your first listing, right, creating that first Google business profile, then yeah, you're going to probably see that needle move a little bit, but sooner, because you're starting from zero. So anything you're doing is going to be a benefit. And then that SEO will build momentum. And that last time round, we talked about the difference between the motorcycle and the Mack truck.
Yes.
Right. So the paid ads are the motorcycle. You turn them on and they're going. Right. There's not the ramp up, but the Mack truck takes a little longer to get moving, a lot more momentum once it's going.
I love that example.
love
It
that.
stuck with me. It stuck with me.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
So the next question, I've seen other florists change their name on their Google business profile, which formerly known as Google My Business. I actually am starting to get the hang of Google business profile, though. It makes more sense to me, of what it's describing. But anyway, rabbit trail, as we talked about, with added words like florist and flower delivery. Is this something you recommend?
Definitely not. We need to remember these are supposed to be business listings. So just like you would list in the phone book or any other business directory, it should be something that represents your name. And it's funny just how much this came up at local use. So we'll cover that a little bit more in some of my takeaways as well. But this is not new. For as long as there's been websites and search, there's been spam. And for as long as there have been local business listings and Google business listings, there's been spam there. This idea of inserting keywords into your business name goes back at least 15 years. SEO conferences 15 years ago or more where this was talked about. So it's not new, but it is something that's gained momentum over time because there was some measure of effectiveness to it. But we're also overall seeing a big crackdown on authenticity and accuracy, not just from Google, but from legal perspectives as well. So Google's really taking a lot of heat for a lot of their business practices. So they're starting to shift more focus onto these kind of accuracy things. So the guideline from Google is this needs to be your business name. Now, this could be either your official registered business name or it could be a DBA. So our shop was Gordon W. Martin Florist Limited, right? But we went by Martin's the Flower People, right? That was a registered DBA for our business. We had used that on all of our signs and letterhead and vehicles, and everywhere you went, that we were Martin's the Flower People, Martin's the Flower People. That was it. That was all. And that's what we were known by. If you called, that's how we answered the phone. All right, if someone was talking about us, it was Martin's or Martin's the Flower People. So that was an acceptable name to use in a listing like this. If we had said Martin's Flowers and Martin's Florist and Flower Delivery and Gifts delivered all throughout Toronto same day as our business name, that's not okay, right? That's very clearly spam, and everybody knows that's spam. And then you just get into diminishing returns. Well, I'll cover that a little bit later on as well. This is the lightning round. I won't go too deep.
Okay.
I would think you would lose that branding. And I do like that you're going to go deeper into that. I would think that you would lose that branding that you work so hard for. And some shops have been given that advice that have been around for over 100 years and have that name. I just can't. So it just don't fall for that. I'm
No.
glad you're touching on it because it's just something that's kind of rearing its head lately. And I'm glad you're squashing that myth. So
Yeah, it's funny how spam just kind of goes in waves and trends, and it usually goes that you've got kind of the thought leaders are kind of pushing the envelope, seeing what they can do, and then eventually get discovered, and then it gets talked about and they're discussed at conferences, and then eventually Neil Patel hears about it and starts pretending he invented it, and then right on, and then somebody usually kind of just kind of as you're filtering down from thought leaders down throughout the industry, somebody will latch onto that as a business model, and then it's could be private blog networks or buying links or putting a whole ton of junk in the footer of your website. Like, these are things that sometimes they work, most of the time they never even worked in the first place, but they're just through repetition and such, people start thinking, okay, this is the way to go. And if you start making spam your business model, right, or the key focus of how you execute, then that's going to be a pretty short lifespan.
Yeah, and I do think the florists, when you hear the word spam, I mean, it does have a negative connotation. We don't want to do that. Nobody, it's just bad advice. Also, they could be, I'm just reading one of the screenshots here, their listing could be suspended or penalized. And at a time before Mother's Day, when that's how most of your customers are finding you, that would be really detrimental. So I'm glad you're going to talk. It sounds like you're going to talk a little more about that in a minute.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What else do we have here, Wanda? Yeah. This is a big one. How do I get more reviews? I hear that a lot.
Yeah. So how do you get more reviews? Generally asking nicely, asking often, asking sincerely. Timing is good. Timing gets a little more tricky with flower shops because probably most of our orders are going to be within the next day or two. But you want to try and avoid asking before the flowers arrive. But you also don't want to wait, 3 weeks after the fact. If you want to catch somebody when they're still in that good memory of, mom just got her flowers and she's thrilled. And, yes, I would love to just, write a review about how excited she was and how happy I am that even though I can't be in town, mom knows I love her because she got great flowers. Right. So timing is good, and don't just do the, hey, can you give me a review? Try and personalize it a little bit. Even if you're using a platform to send out those requests, that's fine, but make sure messaging is branded and make sure that it's in your voice. Yeah, and don't be afraid to follow up.
Yeah, love it. The common theme I heard say was ask. Right? Yeah. Ask. Yeah. Ask for it. I mean, and so love that. And people don't do it. They shy away from it. So that's easy enough. We can ask.
This one you just added, I think, Cammie, the last day or two. It seems like you've been asked this several times. I have, because our floral members are forwarding it to me and asking, I think I know the answer, but I want you to address it. They say, I received a notice that in the near future, the Google My Business app will no longer be available and should be managed directly on Google Maps and search. What does this mean for me?
Yeah, so this is Google being Google, doing googly things, and in their googly way, trying to simplify by confusing everybody. Yeah. So clearly there was a system in place that was working for people for a few years, so that can't be tolerated. This needs to be changed, and we need to ruffle some feathers. So there was an app, obviously Android and iOS app for for your Google business listing. That's going away. I think they announced that back in December, right around the time that they also made the change from Google My Business to Google Business Profile, because again, nothing should keep the same name for too long. That would make too much sense. Yeah. They're also pushing towards having you manage your business listing right in the search results. And for a lot of us that manage these profiles on a regular basis, we're used to going to business.google.com. You log in, here's your list of businesses, click into one, make those changes. I can see how, from Google's perspective, they're saying, okay, that's one more place that people need to remember to go. But I bet you every business owner probably Googles himself once in a while. Right. So you Google yourself and you'll see that in the search results, you'll get that little messaging about here's how your listing's performing. And hey, by the way, did you know that you can make edits right now, right in the search page? So they're making that a little more accessible, trying to surface that interaction a little more. So that could be a good thing. The interface that we're used to right now is eventually going to transition more towards being for agencies or large groups of listings. So I don't see that going away, but the app is going away and they really want to try and push people into editing straight in the search page. I even got a survey popped up in my Google Business Profile Manager saying, hey, why are you here? Please tell us why you didn't go and do this in the search results instead. And some of the choices were because I can do it better in here. I like the layout better here. And so, pick those, but at least, they're asking.
Right.
But
Yeah, they want your opinion at least, Tom.
We have a good question related to that.
Yeah.
Jennifer said, I would get notified when someone reviewed me through the app. How will I be notified now?
You'll just actually get that through the Google Maps app. So they're pushing some of that functionality right into the Maps app. So as long as you've got that on your phone, you should still get
So
those.
if you're logged into your business profile through Google Maps?
Yeah, so as long as you have a Google account on your phone that is an owner or a manager on that listing, then you should get that through the app. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you also receive an email if you choose to be notified that way? You can. Yeah, that's what we do anyway. We get emails and we like that. We go check it out, make sure it's legitimate. So
yes.
Great information. Thank you. Well, our next one is we're going to get into takeaways from Local Use Summit. And before we do that, Ryan, if you wouldn't mind, because I know there's some new people on here who haven't listened to you or haven't joined us on a webinar that you've been with us. Tell me a little bit about your history with Google. I mean, and how long you've been doing SEO. If you just give me that, hey, the reason I know because I watched this for how long? Okay.
Yeah. So 10-cent version, started building websites and doing some internet work in 1994. At that point, we started to have some directories. Search engines came along a couple of years later, Google a few years after that. So just always been involved from, again, right time, right place, start building sites. Now we need to get some traffic to those sites, figure out how to do that. And then eventually Google AdWords comes along. And then they initially launched a program called Google Engage, which later became Google Partners and Google Ad Partners, again, changing names, iterating what it is. So it was involved with Google Engage right from the start there on the ad side. So again, just fortunate to be basically from the dawn of publicly accessible internet, involved and trying to figure things out along the way.
Great.
And I know you went to this summit, you go often, and that's something I really respect about you, and that you're constantly learning and because it is constantly evolving. And that's why we don't claim to be the SEO experts, because you do have to be on top of it. So you went and you did your homework. So could you give us the Cliff's Notes? Can you share your notes and let me cheat off you a little bit? Let us
All
cheat.
right. Yeah. So first, quick bit of info, shout out to Local U. This is a really fantastic organization. Joy Hawkins is the primary there. She runs Sterling Sky. She's a Google product expert. She runs the local search forum and is the owner and primary of Local U as well. So she is just absolutely one of the top minds in local search. And she's put together a fantastic team. So they have resources. They have a weekly podcast called This Week in Local. They've got pretty much all of the top minds in local are involved in this, either as faculty or contributors or people in the forum answering questions. So it's a great resource for staying on top of all the little changes and advances that are happening in local search and local marketing. And then 2 or 3 times a year, they have these basically day-long conferences. Have been virtual for the last few years, as have most things. They do have an in-person one coming up in Denver, I believe, in the next couple of months. So it's just a fantastic opportunity always to kind of get around the best minds in the industry and see what they're talking about. And so this one from early April had I think 9 sessions. And so we can jump on to the next slide here. Right. And so from those 9 sessions, I just started pull kind of a few themes that were coming out. There was, some of it was around like getting really deep on content writing and reporting and things like that. So some got a little kind of high level and technical, but just again, pulling out big ideas from multiple sessions. The first one that came out was that spam's a big deal. Like Google local spam is, it's a big deal. It was mentioned. Again, Joy had a whole session on identifying and fighting spam. Mike Blumenthal talked about it. Colin and Jan who work for Joy also talked about this quite a bit. So we need to remember spam basically comes in 2 categories. So there can be a fake listing, right? So if I'm trying to gather some, especially leads, right? So we see this in legal, locksmiths, garage door repair, things like that, where they're trying to get your name, like get that phone call, get the name, and then sell it to another company, right? Lawyers pay big money for leads, especially PI lawyers and things like that. So if you can get into lead gen, crank out a few thousand fake listings and get some leads that way, it's a business model. Not a great one. Oddly enough, you don't get a lot of spam in the hotel industry because hotels, people are actually expecting a hotel to be there. Yeah, right. So you can't, not going to go make a fake listing. But the other type of spam is what we were talking about earlier, where we're trying to, as Bruce Clay would put it, you put some lipstick on a pig. So we're trying to make something better artificially, by adding, and again, the most common form of spam is putting those keywords in. So this is a quick clip from the end of Joy's session. She was doing some Q&A, and someone had asked about identifying spam. So we can go ahead and play that and see if the audio comes through there.
It's also really easy to tell when you're just looking on Google. Like once you start seeing enough spam, it's kind of obvious, like it sticks out to you. So keyword rich names are really, really one of the main things to look for.
Right. So if you see a lot of keywords in the business name, probably indicates either it's a fake listing or it's at least a spamified listing. Right. And again, if people can spot it, Google can spot it. Right. They try to solve everything with an algorithm. Right. They don't like manual intervention on anything. They want to solve everything by writing a better algorithm. So, when they start seeing spam, they can identify spam. And, as they get more and more legal pressure from the government to deal with things like spam, that's going to be more of a problem. So, really is key. Just keep your listings clean, because, people are out there now actively, trying to address spam. And, whether it's a competitor reporting you, whether it's Google identifying trends in spam, it's not a long-term winning proposition.
Agreed. Good
Wanna move
information.
on? Yeah. Should we move on to 2? We ready?
Yeah.
Okay, let's do it.
Okay. So the next thing was the Vicinity update. This was a big update that, again, Google conveniently pushed out for us right at the end of November, early December, because, hey, what's wrong with messing with everyone's shopping during December?
Yeah, during December.
So no shortage of heart attacks for retailers when that happens. And shouldn't be surprising. What happens most December that there's some kind of update, but this was the first time they'd done a big local update in a long time, and definitely the biggest update in the last 5 years. And one of the key things, the reason it's called the Vicinity update, is how well you rank the further you get from your physical location. Right. And for florists in particular, that's a big deal, right? Because we deliver to a big area, whereas other industries might be, it makes sense to keep that a lot tighter. But we started seeing, shops that were either ranking at, maybe they were on the outskirts of town and they started losing rankings closer to town. Ranking in the next town over, like that bubble around your shop got a lot tighter and you had to work a lot harder to expand it. But one of the other things that was really impacted in this was the value of keywords in the business name. So Google went right after that, stuck a dagger in it. And one of the findings that Colin and Jan talked about was the number of listings they saw that just disappeared, that absolutely tanked, that were basically spammy listings relying on keyword rich names. Now, that doesn't mean that every business that had keywords in the name disappeared, but the ones that stayed for other reasons, right? So they were still being propped up by other factors, like the strength and age of the brand, things like that, good website. But we really saw that the value of those keywords in the business name undermined. And then, so there were big traffic swings for a few months. We saw, listings kind of going all over the place. There are companies that produce charts, kind of showing ranking volatility. And it was a whole lot of roller coasterness for a few months, as some businesses really tanked, some took off, and then there were some adjustments. Really in March, we saw kind of mid-March, we saw a bit of a pullback on that lever. Google, again, often do this when they push out an update. They'll be, okay, we're going to update this. And then, oh, okay, I think we may have overcorrected. We're just going to come back this way a little bit. So, we saw some of that. So the bubble got a little bit bigger, and it's possible that keywords in the business name are maybe carrying a little bit more weight, but not nearly as much as they did back in November. Right. And so here's, we've actually got, these are two questions that the ever awesome David Mim presented to Colin and Jan. Both Colin and Jan Gilbert work for Joy. They're all at Sterling Sky, which is a great agency. And so they're, you can roll that. This, I think it's about 2 minutes, but it's worth listening.
Do you think keywords in the business profile name are being penalized, or it's more that they just don't help as much as they used to?
Yeah, I don't think they're being penalized any more than, there's no such thing as a duplicate content penalty per se. There's just things happening that are either suppressing, which, Yen was kind of looking into, and it's not necessarily fully conclusive, but it kind of looks like Google is sort of applying some sort of filter or suppressing mechanism. If there's 10 competitors in the same market that all have the same variation of keywords added to the name. So I don't think it's a penalty as much as it's just Google figuring out a way to, still allow businesses with keywords in their name to exist in the ecosystem, and sort of deal with the bad actors, so just a really tough nut to crack. And I think it's just their best crack at it at the moment.
Similar question from Ryan Freeman. At this point, would you advise a client to add something like flower delivery to their business name, either just in GMB or just in GBP? Probably not, but across the board, or should they focus on other things like reviews, improving their landing page, etc.?
Yeah, I have some thoughts on that. What about you, Yen? Do you want to grab that?
I was going to say, if you're doing it legitimately, change the sign, do your logo, change your business, change all the stuff. At least you're not going to get some kind of problem because you're keyword stuffing without, you want to do it legitimately. If you're adding keywords, you want to do it legitimately. But then you have to be careful. Is everyone in your market adding flower delivery to their name? And now you're competing against 10 other listings that have flower delivery in their name. And Google might say, well, these look all the same. I'm just going to pick one or two at the top and demote the other ones. Well, you might be one of the ones that got demoted because now you're too similar, and Google wants variety, in its search results. So it may backfire, it might help, but it's one of those things that's hard to know. I'm not saying that, typically it's not that hard to do. You can add your name, change your name and test it out and then roll it back. You risk suspension if you play around with your business name. Yep.
I heard the word risk suspension, and And
Yeah.
even Colin referring to bad actors
Mhm.
whenever they do the keyword stuffing in the spam.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and so what they're talking about in there too is Google is actively trying to deal with the problem, but without nuking a business that might legitimately have some of those keywords in the name, right? So they want to make sure those survive. Like they don't really want to ever get rid of a listing for a legitimate business, but they also don't want to give an advantage to spam. And so when Jan's talking about doing it legitimately, you hear him, he's talking about changing your business name and changing your signage, right? And so that's going to mean you've got your sign above your store has to change. Your van has to change, right? Your letterhead has to change. Your logo and your website, all of that have to change. And I love how casually he throws in, if it doesn't work, just roll it back. Oh, and you're risking suspension. Like,
right.
okay, so how much is that going to cost me to go out, possibly change my business registration? Right? There was a case study done by White Spark out of Edmonton in, I want to say 2020 or earlier, where they had a client that went through this whole process. So they changed their business registration, changed everything, and saw some pretty good gains from it. Right? Again, that was a few years ago, so that's before this latest update. But they went through the whole 6-step process, which is again not an insignificant thing.
Right.
And with SEO, we've always got that mentality. Oh, let's test something. If it doesn't work, you roll it back. You test something else.
Yeah.
That's fine if you're talking about editing some text on a website. That's a little different if I'm going to a business owner and saying, hey, that $3,000 sign out front of your shop, that needs to change. But don't worry, if it doesn't work, we'll just put the old one back up. Right? Hey, let's get some new lettering on your van, and and on and on. So when he's talking about doing it legitimately, that's what that means. So, and then you get into the diminishing returns, because if everybody starts doing it, right, then what is it really? Even if Google doesn't demote, right, you're still just competing against everybody else who's doing the same thing. And you'd mentioned earlier the branding impact from that. I saw an example a few weeks ago from Raleigh, North Carolina. They had, I think it was Tree Care. It's just the whole list of businesses that were, and most of them properly named. So they followed that advice. They created a business with Raleigh Tree Care, Raleigh Tree Trimming, Raleigh Tree Maintenance, all of that. And then you're looking at it going, okay, who did I call last year? Which one's which? Which one does Bob work for again? I don't know.
Right. I think your family probably doesn't even know.
Yeah. You got it's at some point, your brand means something, and your reputation means something, and the good things that you can control mean something. So spam's it's a bad way out. If you'll permit me a quick rabbit trail. During the tail end of COVID, my older son got into pool. So he took his money, bought himself a little pool table, kind of a 6x4 kind of thing. Because he'd been watching some guys on YouTube, wanted to get in this, never played before, and he went nuts. And so he's been doing that for a few months now. I walked out the other day, I see him, and he's jumping cue ball over stuff, doing bank shots, and I'm thinking, okay, you know what, I used to play a bit in my younger days. I haven't played much in a while, so thinking, okay, go play with the boy for a bit. And I'm realizing, no, the only way I'm going to win now is if I start pulling out the dad tricks, right? I gotta cough, I gotta nudge, I gotta distract, I gotta do some that, and then I'm like, well, great. So now I'm in a position where my only way to win is to cheat, and no, so I don't play them. But if the only way I can win is cheating, that just didn't really seem like a good way to go about it. So once in a while I let him thrash me, but no, that's doing that to win just didn't seem a great way to go.
Yeah, that's a good analogy for sure.
Love it.
Cool. All right, and last takeaway, reviews. So reviews are, we've known for years that reviews matter. They are a good factor in ranking and conversion. The gentleman named Curtis Boyd a few years ago started a company called The Transparency Company. So he actually developed an algorithm that is designed to identify fake reviews and start going after them. So I've seen him do a couple of presentations, and his work's pretty fantastic, because reviews are really a hot button thing now. Not only are they important, but consumers are getting way more savvy, and there's a lot more legal pressure coming down. So Mike Blumenthal, who is again one of the OGs of local marketing, amongst other things in his career, he founded a company called GatherUp, which is a review generation platform. He did a presentation looking at the new landscape for reviews, and the FTC is getting serious. They've been getting serious on affiliate marketing and kind of fake reviews that way the last few years. And then last year they started rolling out some big ticket fines, like 6 and 7 figure fines to companies that were messing with reviews. And so in this case, he was talking about Fashion Nova, and what they did was something called review gating. So this is where you send a request, hey Cami, could you give me some quick feedback on how we did? And you come back with, you know what, wasn't really that great. And instead of offering you the chance to leave a review, they try and divert you into something else. But if you come back and say, tell me how much you loved it, my system is going to direct you to leave a Google review, right? Or leave a review on their site or something along that line. So you're basically gating access to reviews based on the feedback you're getting. Naturally, that that produces a lot more good reviews. And review gating basically was pioneered by GatherUp. So this is Mike talking about something that his company many years back really kind of made mainstream. But then in 2018, Google banned it. So if they and GatherUp stopped offering it at that point, because Google said no, this will get you penalized and shut down. Yelp as well, absolutely forbids review gating. Fashion Nova was doing it. They suppressed about 250,000 negative reviews, and the FTC said, okay, $4.2 million fine.
Wow.
Yeah, so that hurts. Yeah, not the first company, but this I think is the biggest fine so far, kind of the biggest headline. And I like the way Mike printed this. The FTC wants your attention, right? They're doing this for publicity. They're doing this so that other people see what's going on and stop. The interesting thing is, how did the FTC get to Fashion Nova? Through a platform called Yotpo, which a lot of people know if you're in e-commerce at all. Yotpo is a pretty popular add-on for websites. And Yotpo was the platform that they were using for the review gating. So first, the FTC came to Yotpo and said, we're going to crush you. And Yotpo did the puppy thing, rolled over, showed their belly, and said, we'll do whatever you want. We'll stop immediately. And then the FTC said, great, let's talk about your customers. And Yotpo served up Fashion Nova on a platter. And the FTC said, oh, great, we can make a nice big impression out of this. So this is what happened. And then FTC is given some guidelines on how review management should be handled. So first of that list is no review gating. Okay. Secondly, no selective review display. And that one hurts, right? They don't want you to only show the good reviews on your site. If you're going to show reviews, you got to open the door and show it all. Right? Well, that's a tough one, but true. And then again, positive and negative reviews need to be treated equally across your platforms. They also talked about incentives. That tends to be more on the product review side, not so much on the business review, the local. But if there's any incentives or if there are any connections between the person leaving the review and the company, all those things need to be disclosed. But
so let me ask you on the incentive things, because we've been asked that before too. If somebody says to you, go leave a review and you can have a gift card or 10% off to go give a review. Is that what you're talking about, that you cannot do, right? That's not allowed.
Well, it has to be disclosed.
Okay, got it.
And again, generally that applies more to products. If that happens in kind of the local business space, those reviews will actually get, as soon as that's known, the reviews will get pulled.
Okay, got it.
So like incentivizing local reviews is actually not, that's a violation of Google's policy and Yelp and others. So you can try it, but then you, by law, you have to disclose it. And then when you disclose it, eventually Google's going to say, okay, you've just, you're making it very clear that you're incentivizing these, they're gone.
Okay.
But
Makes sense.
Yeah. So the hammer here is that they've also said the business is ultimately responsible. So often in these situations, you've got a business that hires an agency. The agency works with the platform, and then the platform is providing that gating and that suppression and that selective filtering, and then that the business is using that. And the FTC is saying, no, we don't care about the agency. We don't care about the platform except as a way to find the customers. We care about the business. So if your business is doing this, even if you don't really know because you didn't care to ask, right, then you're liable. Right. Wow. So that is something very much to be aware of, because there are still agencies and there are still platforms out there that are doing review gating and offering it and making it a sales pitch. Right. But you're making that a sales pitch based on something that eventually is going to, it's going to hurt your client. So
definitely comes down to trust. You need to go with an SEO agency you trust.
And ask questions.
Right.
Yeah. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Okay.
So
ready to move on?
Yeah.
All right. So the 3 things that everybody listening can do before Mother's Day to help.
All right. So quickly going to show why this matters. The local search ranking factors is a pretty much annual report that is put out currently by Darren and the team at Whitespark. It was originally done by David Meem, who we saw in some of the previous slides. This is a big panel of top minds in local search, and there's a big long survey. And then Darren's team goes and puts kind of correlates all that data and puts out this report every year. It's a huge job, but it's really insightful. So obviously there's a disclaimer here that this is collected opinion, right? This is not data from Google. This is not authoritative in that sense. This is just opinion from some of the best people that spend their lives working on this stuff. Right. And looking at 2 sides, we've got on the left side is that local pack, what matters to get you ranked in there, and then local organic on the right side. So primarily looking at the left side, what's the biggest factor is what you're doing with your Google business profile. See, I almost tripped up because it's a 2021 report, so it still says GMB, but it actually changed as Darren was publishing this report. So he apologized, but like all through the whole report, it's back and forth because the terminology changed mid report. But yeah, so your Google business profile listing matters. Reviews matter, and what happens on your website matters. Those are one of the top things they're going to influence. So let's jump to the next slide and see what we can do about that. Right. So a couple of recommendations. Have a look at your profile, especially if you've got somebody who's managing this for you. Right. Just every once in a while, have a look at your own profile, make sure stuff's accurate. And you need to be aware that Google has announced now that they're using AI to actually update these profiles based on all the information that they can gather here, there, and everywhere. And in their announcement, they, that we're going to pull sources from here, sources from there, and even in some cases, the business owner. So it's nice to be added as a footnote on your own business, but they're going in particular, business hours are being affected by this. So make sure, right, that you've got that just all your business information is accurate, name's accurate, phone number, website, all those things are still accurate. If you're going to have special hours for Mother's Day, you can put those in now, get that set up, right, and then add in some products, because Google is showing more preference to listings that are not just updated, but that have products in place, and special bonus to ones that are using more of their live inventory systems like Pointy, but that doesn't affect florists as much, because we've got custom products. We're not barcoded inventory that's coming off a truck and then out the front of the store. But having these extra things in there is going to be helpful in elevating your profile. And I believe there are some ways that Flower Click members are already benefiting from that.
Yeah, we just from hearing this from you, we were like, well, if that helps, we're going to do that for our members. I mean, we have been helping with the Google business profile. And just so you know, I wrote that down really big before this. Got it on my notes, so I don't say Google My Business, but Google Business. We always update and we stay on top of the hours. Shout out to Leslie, who's always on top of that. But we're also going to add the Mother's Day products, like you said. We're going to add 4 for all of our Flower Click members. I did see quite a few that were on this call, and we're just going to pick 4 from your Mother's Day category that's already live on your website and add those. So just wanted to give that little update.
That's fantastic. And yeah, it is something I was reading today. Actually, searches for open near me are up 400% year over year. So getting your hours right matters, because yeah, if you're open, you want people to come. And if you're not open and they show up, they're going to be angry.
Yeah.
So
good point.
Accuracy matters both ways. And then request reviews, ask, right? Go back. Hopefully you're doing this regularly. Maybe you've had a little slip, right? Maybe you still kind of post Valentine's, kind of, had a little downtime. But yeah, get back in the habit. Go back through people from the last month or two that either you haven't asked, or if you've asked and they haven't responded, ask again. It's okay to be a little persistent. 2-3 asks for people is not terrible. They're generally not going to be offended by it. And if they're really, really offended by it, they can unsubscribe and then you won't offend them anymore. Right.
And I will also add that I have a little template that I'm willing to share that we've written.
Awesome.
If our members would like, to use that as an email and they don't have time to craft one. Of course, like you said, they should kind of add their own voice to it and brand, but I definitely share that if anybody wants it. So,
and
excellent.
two things. One, if you're in our email marketing program, we do usually include that in the newsletters and at the bottom of not every email, but majority of the emails to ask for a review. And then we had one question related to reviews. Someone asked, we had one negative review that brought down our Google ranking months ago. Since then, we have gotten close to 10 5-star reviews, but our rating has still not gone back up. Is this normal?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you mentioned those numbers. It was part of Curtis Boyd's presentation on, when he was talking about the fake reviews and fighting that. He said, getting rid of one fake negative review has as much benefit as getting 11. So yeah, 11 positive reviews. So getting rid of one negative, one negative basically is equivalent to 11 positive.
Wow.
Right. So if you went down with one, you got 10 back, you're almost there. Right. Okay. So now, if that negative review was a legit customer, all you can do is try and respond to it well, and just be authentic and apologizing, trying to make it right. If it's a fake review, there are some other things you can do, try and get it taken care of. But otherwise, just try and get as many good reviews as you can and outweigh it.
And is it easy to report a fake review?
Yeah, you can report from within there, and there is also a redressal form that you can go through. So that's something, if you want to email me on that, we can go over that in more detail. Some emails going to be coming up in a second. I'd be happy to talk at length and how we want to go about addressing that.
Great.
Number 3.
Yeah, so number 3, now we're looking at the on-page side. Just make sure that your Mother's Day page is online as soon as possible and linked from your homepage, right? That link, the internal link from your homepage to Mother's Day page is going to carry a lot of weight. It's going to help Google discover the page faster. Because we have to remember that Google goes through a process of first crawling and then indexing and then possibly rendering before that page is actually in the index and surfacing. So you don't want it to be like that Mother's Day week when Google finally says, oh, look, they have a Mother's Day page. I should get back to that and start looking at that in detail tomorrow. All right. And it was years ago now, but I did a study at a holiday looking at Teleflora websites. I'm not picking on Teleflora, it's just they had Yeah, they had several thousand websites live at the time, so there was good material to work from. And yeah, they had found about a third of them had their holiday page in the Google index. So 2/3 did not. Right. And some of that comes down to, if the page is, just robo created, if it's the default Christmas page from, so if you haven't done anything to it, all the products are the same, all the information, there's no unique content on there. So if you've got somebody merchandising your page, that's definitely going to help. But and a lot of it is, and it still happens with our clients. We'll get a request, hey, could you put my Mother's Day page up? Well, it's the 7th. It's like this should be like the 7th of April is happening. You don't necessarily have to have it prominent in your navigation right away, but it should be there. It should be accessible. You can just, even a footer link from the homepage to make sure that you've got that link coming through, so it's carrying some weight from the most powerful page on your site. Right. And that Google's seeing it, they know it exists. And ideally, you never delete that page. You might take it out of your navigation. Don't turn it off, don't delete it, because you don't want Google to treat it like a new page every time the year comes around. Right. That page should be accruing links over time, accruing some age and authority over time.
This is where, I'll have people ask if we do SEO, and I say, yes, at a certain level. I mean, keeping it merchandised, keeping it fresh, and again, like you said, not turning it off, keeping it. But we don't specialize like you do. There's a difference, but that's on page SEO, which is important.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So I think we jumped ahead a few there.
Oh yeah,
I just wanted to jump ahead real quick to show Cami, you've got that one you were talking about. So
yeah, it does make sense to go there. She's
real quick.
Go there because we do. I'm talking about Flower Click.
That's why she's the boss.
I mean, it is. She can push me forward. I'll do it. So, so the schema markup is just a little something that I've learned along the way. We've learned along the way, and actually got that advice from you, Ryan. So we do that for our members. Google Search Console sitemap push is something we do with every new member that comes on and asks Google to crawl. Great product descriptions. You've kind of complimented us on that before. That keep the content that's original, right? Contain keywords. We are actively managing that on-page merchandising and changing out the product mix regularly. The Facebook posts can help. The Google business profile posts, Google business profile cleanup. One thing that I just want to point out with that point there is adding categories, service areas. Like that's where you add the keywords, right? I mean, that's where I put flower delivery. That's where I put florist, right? That's Google made it that way. So, and they made a place for it that's not cheating, right? So definitely, and I will just also add, it's frequent that I'll do a setup with a brand new member and they don't have all of that filled out. So it is definitely something that we know it makes a difference. So we pay attention to it. And then again, that last one is activity on that Google business profile, whether it's a post or adding products and that kind of thing. Especially, we do it monthly, like you said, but before a big holiday, we do a little extra push just to kind of set them up over there. Competitive. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going back to your bonus page now.
Okay. Yeah. I know we are at the top of the hour, so yeah.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Sorry.
Finish her up.
I ramble.
No, you're good.
We all do. It's great stuff. Great information.
Yeah, so we just threw in, you asked for 3, I gave you 4. So there was a bonus. Write a blog post on something like how to choose Mother's Day flowers, right? Because people will be confused. People will be, if it's not something that they buy often, there's some anxiety there. And then, try and make it useful. So publish it early. You can share it a few times on social. You don't have to share it once on your Facebook page. You can do it a couple of times, right? Over time. If you get it out early, you can share it a few times there. Turn it into a video if you want to have some fun. Send it to, if it's a useful enough article, send it out to some local news, because there's that reporter who's always going to get stuck with that. Okay, it's Mother's Day, I need to do a local story, get some local flavor, stand out somewhere with, it's Mother's Day, so this is the right. So the more you can make that person's life easier by saying, hey, let me gift wrap this for you.
Yes.
And I'll come on camera and be your expert, right? You can it's not just about cranking out a blog post to be on your site. You can really leverage that in a few different ways.
I
Awesome.
love that. That is so true. They're always looking for a story at Mother's Day, and they sometimes sending something like that, then they're going to bring the camera in the store. And
Yeah,
you know,
that doesn't hurt.
yeah,
Your words.
And I think this one again is just to say there's so much out there that's about
Mhm.
SEO and it plays into all your rankings, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely very complicated process, and there's a lot of different factors involved. But yeah, that's kind of what makes it fun too.
That's why you do what you do, and because you think that's fun. So we think it's a challenge. You think it's fun and satisfying, which is awesome. So here's something you have.
Yeah, I absolutely flamed out as a floral designer, so I had to pick something. But,
Yeah.
So we do have an offer for here for attendees of the webinar, Flower Click members. Something little extra juice we put together for this one. So we're starting with the local SEO program that's actually SEO. So we're actually doing things that are going to help your rankings. We've got a pretty nice set of online reputation tools as well that will both help with asking for reviews and then responding to reviews, tracking reviews all over in different places on the internet, even Google Q&A. So if someone comes to your business profile and they submit a question there, that'll all show up in your dashboard. You can answer those things all in one place. And it gives you a pretty cool word cloud from your reviews too. So if you start seeing, hey, you know what, Cammie's name shows up in here a lot and in green, right? Not in red. So maybe she needs an extra Starbucks today, right? You can start seeing what are the themes that you can pull out of the reviews that are tell you a little bit more about your business. So I think that's a pretty neat tool.
Awesome.
And something new that we're adding in is we'll even do the review requests for you. All you got to do is give us that list of customers. If you can give us that, then we'll take care of even doing the asking for you.
Nice.
Right?
Nice.
And of course, make sure that we keep all your business listings in sync. Usually for florists, depending where you are, it can be anywhere from like 40 to 60 different places that you need to kind of keep in check, especially with Google now using AI to collect data from all over and change your listing whenever they want to. Want to make sure that there's as much accurate info out there as possible. So that's something that we would normally sell upwards of $5.95 monthly. We're offering that for $4.95 monthly. And by the end of the month, we'll kind of double your 6-month SEO deliverables for anybody that signs up in the next few days.
Nice. And
Very
I'll just say I've had several of our Flower Click members go to Ryan and haven't heard a bad thing at all. All is good. And I trust you. And that's why we brought you in. So just give you a little plug there that I think you're very trustworthy for an SEO agency.
Well, thank you. That does mean a lot.
Absolutely. So here's Ryan's information.
Yep.
So if you want to chat,
Just kind of let them jot that down.
let him jot that down, or Ellie, you'll be
Screenshot,
sending
take a
a
picture.
rewind, right?
Nice.
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I will send out the replay with all these links for people to get a hold of you.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All this talk of authenticity today, I really need new headshots too. There's a lot more wisdom going on now than
Wisdom. I like that.
That's good. That's good.
It's all that pull with your boy.
Oh man. No, that's all up in here. That's the temples.
And
And
then, yeah, go ahead, Cammie.
Well, I mean, I like that. So Ryan's making an offer. We also wanted to offer a high impact, low effort assessment of what you can do to your website before Mother's Day. So what we're giving a 15 minutes with me. And we're going to bribe you to come. No, I'm just going to give you a $15 Starbucks. So coffee with Cammie, right?
Coffee with
Coffee
Cammie.
with Cammie equals happy and a beautiful website. So, but yeah, so schedule on my calendar. We'll send this out through the email. And if you are interested in hearing a little bit about how we can help you with your website and what maybe a couple things I see that you could do that could make a big difference right before Mother's Day, I'm happy to just spend a bit of time with you. And I probably won't have a Starbucks. I'll have a Keurig cup, but I'll join you with the coffee.
That's great.
Cammie and coffee. It's perfect.
And coffee.
And then this was just a little bit about us in case you didn't you're not familiar with FlowerClick, we are a membership that offers the support really of a part-time employee as well as a business partner. We have over 200 shops, and so you have that connection with all the other florists, plus our team of experts within one low monthly membership rate. We have a lot going on, so we won't, expand on everything we can do, but again, if you have that coffee with Cami, she can kind of give you the lowdown. I know that we're running out of time here.
Yep, running out of time. So again, if there are any questions, unanswered questions, anything that is in the chat that we didn't answer, then we will be sure and do that. Cami and I talked about that earlier, or send them directly to Ryan at striderseo.com or Cami at flowerclick.com.
Yay. Happy Mother's
good.
Day, everybody.
And thank you, Ryan, for your time today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah.
for doing this. And definitely check out the podcast. Don't forget the podcast.
Yeah, don't forget the podcast. Yeah.
Awesome.
Ryan's been on there a couple times and we have to have him back. So, well, actually, we're going to use some of this for the podcast, Ryan. So we
Excellent.
will have you on here again. So it'll be great.
Perfect.
Thanks again. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. And I know everybody who's joining us today does as well. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Happy Mother's Day.